Why do some ancient secrets remain untouched, as if protected by forces greater than time? Why do massive structures exist in places where no civilization should have had the means to build them? And why do entire cultures vanish, leaving behind only questions? Today, we begin a journey not just through history, but through the limits of human understanding. Because in this world, there are places where logic crumbles, where the past whispers louder than science, and where the impossible feels strangely familiar. This is not about fairy tales. These are documented enigmas, discovered, excavated, but never explained. So take a deep breath, because what you're about to witness is not a list of mysteries. It's an unraveling of everything we thought we knew, about the world, about time, and about ourselves. There are mysteries that defy reason, and the deeper we dig, the more they stare back. Why do some ancient secrets remain untouched, as if protected by forces greater than time? Why do massive structures exist in places where no civilization should have had the means to build them? And why do entire cultures vanish, leaving behind only questions? Today, we begin a journey not just through history, but through the limits of human understanding. Because in this world, there are places where logic crumbles, where the past whispers louder than science, and where the impossible feels strangely familiar. This is not about fairy tales. These are documented enigmas, discovered, excavated, but never explained. So take a deep breath, because what you're about to witness is not a list of mysteries. It's an unraveling of everything we thought we knew, about the world, about time, and about ourselves. There are places on Earth that seem to exist outside of time, where ancient engineers carved stone so precisely it mirrors modern laser cuts, where entire underground cities lie buried beneath farmland, without a single record in the history books, where machines of our era would fail, but ancient hands somehow succeeded. In China, one emperor lies beneath a mountain of secrets, guarded by rivers of mercury, protected by automatic traps, preserved by silence. In Mongolia, a tomb has eluded the world for 800 years, not hidden by nature, but erased by design. In Lebanon, stones larger than jumbo jets sit stacked with such perfection, modern cranes would struggle to move them today. Across the world, across cultures that never met, we find the same questions repeating themselves. How? Why? And most importantly, who? Humanity loves stories of progress. We believe that with time comes wisdom, that we are smarter than our ancestors, stronger, more capable, more evolved. But what if the past was not as primitive as we assume? What if some knowledge was lost, not because it was never discovered, but because someone chose to bury it? Could it be that time is not a straight line but a cycle, that we rise and fall again and again? And in between those rises and falls, secrets are left behind. Traces, warnings, messages etched in stone, written in symbols, preserved in silence. In the deserts of Egypt, the unfinished obelisk of Aswan still lies embedded in stone. Over 1,200 tons of granite, quarried with such ambition it dwarfs all that came before. But a single crack brought the project to a halt, and the tools disappeared. In India, the Kailasa temple stands as if carved by gods, not built from blocks but cut down from the mountain itself, monolithic, intricate, and strangely perfect. No blueprints, no mistakes, no answers. In Costa Rica, hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres sit scattered across the land, some as small as your fist, others as tall as a man. No inscriptions, no purpose, only perfection. Some call these anomalies. Others call them echoes of civilizations we've forgotten, or perhaps civilizations we were never meant to remember. And when conventional history fails to explain, what fills the silence? Conspiracy, myth, speculation. But behind every rumor lies a fragment of truth, and behind every cover-up, a question too powerful to ignore. Let's talk about scale. The pyramids of Giza are aligned with Orion's belt. The same alignment appears in ancient sites across the globe, from Mexico to China. Coincidence or coordination? How could civilizations, oceans apart, build monuments with similar geometry, aligned to the same stars, without ever meeting? How did they cut stone so precisely, transport blocks weighing hundreds of tons, and design structures that have outlasted earthquakes, floods, and time itself? Could the answer be that they weren't working in isolation? That there once existed a global knowledge, shared, passed on, and then lost? Or worse, erased? Throughout history, knowledge has burned. The Library of Alexandria held hundreds of thousands of scrolls, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and histories we'll never read. Some say it was destroyed by accident. Others say it was a deliberate act, because knowledge is power and power must be controlled. But even when books are burned, the stones remain. And some of those stones tell stories. Maps drawn before Antarctica was officially discovered, showing its coastline ice-free. Manuscripts written in languages no scholar has ever decoded. Tools of bronze and gold found in layers of earth that predate known metallurgy. Every time we dig, we find something we can't explain. And every time we try to explain it, new questions emerge. There are patterns repeating across space and time: pyramids, obelisks, circles, giants, serpents, stars. Why did so many ancient cultures worship the same celestial bodies? Why did they all build upward? Why did they bury their dead in massive stone vaults, as if protecting more than just bones? And why do their legends always speak of a great flood, a fall from heaven, a knowledge that was once given then taken away? Are these just shared myths or shared memories? Memories of a time before time, of something or someone who walked among us. We are taught to separate science from myth, but perhaps that separation is the myth. Perhaps myths are the remains of science so ancient we can no longer recognize it. Take the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were hidden for 2,000 years, discovered by accident, and they rewrote what we knew of scripture and history overnight. What else lies buried, waiting to challenge our assumptions? What other truths have we dismissed, not because they were false, but because we weren't ready to believe? Across the ages, there have been warnings, texts that speak of cycles, of destruction and rebirth, of civilizations that rose to greatness only to fall into ruin, not by war, not by plague, but by forgetting who they were, forgetting where they came from, forgetting the cost of hubris. And in that forgetting, they vanished. leaving only stone and silence. Today, we live in the most connected age in history, yet we remain disconnected from the deepest truths about our past. We believe we have conquered nature, that we have mastered the elements, that the universe is within our grasp, but maybe we've only scratched the surface. Maybe the answers we seek are not out there in the stars, but right here beneath our feet. So in this video, we won't just look at puzzles. We'll look at patterns, at warnings, at whispers from the ancient world that still echo today. Each story is a thread, and when we pull those threads, they lead somewhere strange, somewhere forgotten, somewhere forbidden, and perhaps somewhere sacred. Because to truly understand these mysteries, we must ask more than what and how. We must ask why. Why were these things made? Why were they hidden? Why do they matter now? This journey won't provide simple answers, but it will offer something far more valuable: wonder, perspective, and a reminder that not everything can be explained and not everything should be. So as we begin, let your mind be open. Let your imagination be free. Let your curiosity guide you, not just toward knowledge, but toward meaning. Because the deeper we go into these mysteries, the more we may discover, not about them, but about ourselves. Let's begin. Some mysteries are hidden in plain sight. Others are buried so deep in time and earth that even the bravest archaeologists dare not disturb them. Not because we can't, but because we shouldn't. Because behind certain doors lie secrets the world may not be ready to face. And nowhere is that more true than with the tombs of two of history's most powerful emperors. They forged empires, they changed the world, and in death, they vanished into silence. Let us begin with the first emperor of China, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the emperor who took his secrets to the grave. It was a 13-year-old boy who ordered its construction. A boy who would go on to unify all of China, forge the first empire, standardize the script, currency, and roads, then seek immortality. His name was Qin Shi Huang, and for over 2,000 years, his tomb has remained untouched and sealed beneath a forested hill near Xi'an. We know where it is. We've mapped its chambers. We've detected rivers of mercury, traps, and underground structures beneath the mound. And yet, to this day, not a single archaeologist has dared to open it. Why? According to the ancient historian Sima Qian, the emperor ordered the creation of an entire underground kingdom, complete with palaces, towers, and flowing rivers made of liquid mercury. The ceiling was said to be inlaid with pearls to mimic a star-filled sky. The floor represented China's great rivers, yellow Yangtze, flowing forever in shimmering poison. Thousands of craftsmen were conscripted, hundreds of thousands in fact. And when the work was complete, legend says, many of them were sealed inside, buried alive so they would never reveal its secrets. Surrounding the tomb are pits filled with warriors, horses, and chariots, all made of clay, known to the world as the Terracotta Army. Each statue is unique. Each face, each posture, each detail as if they once lived and breathed. And they guard something the world has never seen. Modern surveys have confirmed the legends. Mercury levels around the tomb are abnormally high. The earth hides chambers, vaults, halls, hidden corridors. Yet scientists refuse to dig. Why? Because we're not ready. The moment air touches ancient silk, ink, or lacquer, it disintegrates. The pigments on the terracotta warriors vanished within minutes of exposure. Now imagine what would happen if the tomb was opened hastily. Thousands of years of history gone in seconds. But it's not just about science. It's also about reverence. In Chinese culture, imperial tombs are sacred. To violate them is to insult ancestors, history, and national identity. And Qin Shi Huang was no ordinary emperor. He was a symbol of unity, of absolute power. Even the Chinese government is cautious. Survey data is tightly guarded. Excavation is officially paused, indefinitely. But that doesn't stop the whispers. Some believe the tomb contains ancient technology. Others think it hides lost scrolls or relics of a civilization predating even China itself. And still others fear that opening the tomb would awaken a curse or unleash toxins that could poison the land. So it remains sealed, not by locks or guards, but by fear, by mystery, and by choice. And maybe that's exactly what Qin Shi Huang wanted. The lost tomb of Genghis Khan, the grave that erased itself. Now let us travel north, across windswept grasslands, through endless sky, into the heart of Mongolia. Here lived the man who built the largest empire in history. Genghis Khan, conqueror of nations, unifier of tribes, and founder of a dynasty that stretched from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea. And yet we have no idea where he was buried. No grave, no monument, no shrine, only silence. Legend says he died in 1227 during a military campaign. His body was secretly returned to Mongolia by an elite escort. But to keep the location hidden, they killed everyone they passed. And then, themselves were killed, to erase all memory. Some stories say 1,000 horses trampled the grave. Others say rivers were diverted, forests planted, and then nothing. 800 years later, we still don't know where he rests. This isn't just a gap in history, it's a deliberate absence. Even the secret history of the Mongols, the oldest surviving Mongol chronicle, says nothing about his tomb. Marco Polo wrote that the Mongols themselves didn't know where it was, but they didn't need to, because to them his spirit was everywhere, in the wind, in the steppe, in the silence between hooves. Some believe the tomb lies near Burkhan Khaldun, a sacred mountain tied to his birth and prayers, but no excavation is allowed. Local people consider it holy, and any intrusion would be an insult to the ancestors. Even drones, satellites, and modern imaging have failed. Thousands have tried. None have succeeded. Why such secrecy? Because Genghis Khan was more than a man. He was a symbol of power, of unity, of divine will. To disturb his grave would be to risk his wrath, or worse, the unraveling of what he built. Some say his tomb holds treasures from every land he conquered. Others believe it guards ancient relics, sacred scripts, even a sword of prophecy. And still others think it holds nothing, that his greatest wish was to become part of the earth, unseen, untouched, eternal. The Mongolian people do not want the tomb found, not out of fear, but out of respect, because some graves are not meant to be opened, some secrets not meant to be known, and perhaps some emperors knew that the greatest power is not in being remembered, but in being unknowable. Together, these two tombs, one in China, one in Mongolia, form a mirror image. One is sealed but visible. The other is lost but eternal. One surrounded by warriors made of clay, the other defended by silence and myth. And both ask the same question: what should never be found? Because not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are meant to be honored. And in their silence, they speak louder than any discovery. But not all monuments are tombs, and not all secrets are buried. Some are carved into the earth, built on scales that defy reason, left behind by hands we still do not understand. In the next chapter of our journey, we descend into the stone, into temples, caves, and ruins that rewrite everything we thought we knew about ancient construction and human potential. Get ready, because what lies ahead is heavier than legend and deeper than doubt. Some structures were not built. They were carved, summoned from the bedrock, raised by hands we do not understand, using tools we cannot find, and guided by knowledge we no longer possess. They challenge the limits of history. They laugh in the face of modern engineering, and they stand still, like questions made of stone. This is the story of megastructures that shouldn't exist, but they do. Longyu Caves, the underground city no one recorded. In 1992, a farmer in Zhejiang province, China, wanted to dig a fish pond. He drained the water from a pit near his house, but what he found was no ordinary cavity. Beneath the ground was a vast chamber, perfectly carved, stone walls polished smooth, ceilings domed with symmetry, every surface engraved with wave-like patterns, running with precision from floor to ceiling. It was not natural, it was made. And when locals drained nearby pits, they discovered more. In total, 24 caves interconnected with no debris left from excavation. No tools, no bones, no signs of life, just silence and perfection. Archaeologists were stunned. Each chamber was up to 30 meters high. Pillars rose like cathedral columns. The carvings were identical across all chambers, suggesting a unified plan executed with discipline and control. But here's the mystery. No ancient Chinese record ever mentions them. And based on erosion and dating techniques, the caves are over 2,000 years old, possibly built during the Qin or early Han dynasty. How could such an enormous undertaking, millions of cubic feet of stone, go entirely unrecorded? And why would a civilization pour such effort into carving underground spaces and then abandon them? Some theorize they were granaries. Others say ritual chambers. A few suggest royal tombs or shelters from war. But there's no evidence, no offerings, no human remains, no writing, just the quiet hum of geometry beneath farmland. Göbekli Tepe, the temple that shouldn't exist. In 1994, a shepherd stumbled upon a piece of carved stone in southeastern Turkey. He had no idea what he'd found, but what lay buried beneath his feet would rewrite history. Göbekli Tepe, an ancient complex of massive stone pillars T-shaped, over 6 meters tall, weighing tons, arranged in circles, decorated with carvings of animals, symbols, and abstract shapes, and older than anything we've ever discovered. over 11,600 years old. That means it predates agriculture. It predates writing. It even predates pottery. Let that sink in. People who were supposed to be simple hunter-gatherers built a megalithic temple, a sacred site, with no metal tools, no wheels, no cities, and then they buried it, deliberately. Why? Why build something so monumental, then hide it? Some believe it marked the dawn of religion. Others think it encoded astronomical knowledge, or that it honored a cataclysm or survived one. But none of the answers fit, because nothing else from that era is this advanced. It's as if Göbekli Tepe appeared out of nowhere, fully formed without precedent, and then disappeared. It raises a haunting possibility that we didn't slowly invent civilization. We remembered it, that something came before, something sophisticated, something lost. Kailasa Temple, the mountain that was carved away. In Maharashtra, India, within the Ellora cave complex, lies a temple like no other. Not built from blocks, not assembled, but carved from a single rock from the top down. It is the Kailasa Temple dedicated to Lord Shiva, and it defies reason. 300 feet long, 170 feet wide, over 100 feet tall, intricate columns, ceilings, chambers, sculptures, staircases, all carved directly from the mountain with no room for mistakes. Historians say it was built in the 8th century in just 18 years. But that would require removing over 400,000 tons of rock, without dynamite, without modern drills, with only hammers and chisels. And still, the carvings are crisp, the angles perfect, the symmetry divine. There are no signs of scaffolding, no errors, no corrections. Even today, architects and engineers struggle to explain how it was done. Some say it was the work of thousands of artisans, perfectly coordinated. Others believe ancient advanced technology may have been involved. Laser cutting, sonic vibration, lost tools, we don't know, but the result is undeniable. A monolithic temple sculpted with such grace and mastery that even time dares not erode it. Baalbek, the stones too heavy to move. In the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, ancient ruins rise from the dust. Columns, temples, archways, but beneath them lie stones that shatter the imagination. 3 massive blocks called the Trilithon form the base of the Temple of Jupiter. Each is 20 meters long, over 4 meters high, and weighs between 750 and 800 tons. To put that in perspective, each stone is heavier than a fully loaded Boeing 747, and yet they're stacked, perfectly aligned. How? Roman builders are credited with the temple, but Roman cranes couldn't lift more than 100 tons. And these stones were moved, somehow from a quarry nearly a kilometer away. And it gets stranger. In the quarry lies a 1,000-ton block called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. And in 2014, archaeologists found an even bigger one, 1,650 tons, the largest known stone block ever cut by human hands. It was never moved. Why? Was the technology lost? Or was it never Roman to begin with? Some believe the site predates Rome, that it was the foundation of a far older civilization. Others point to similar stonework in Egypt, Peru, and Easter Island. Different continents, same mystery. Did these builders share a knowledge we've forgotten? Or did they come from the same source scattered across time? The unfinished obelisk of Aswan, a glimpse into ancient engineering. In a granite quarry in Aswan, Egypt, lies an obelisk that was never raised. Half carved from the bedrock, it lies on its side. Massive, monumental, broken. Had it been completed, it would have stood 42 meters tall and weighed 1,200 tons, making it the largest obelisk ever made. But a crack appeared, and the work stopped. What makes this site so extraordinary is what it reveals: tool marks, cutting grooves, the process frozen in time. Archaeologists believe workers used dolerite balls to pound the granite. They also used wood wedges soaked in water to split the rock. It's ingenious, but even with this method, how did they plan to move it? Boats on the Nile couldn't carry 1,200 tons. No pulleys, no wheels, no steel. Just willpower and a mystery. Some believe this was the limit, the point where ambition surpassed technology. Others believe the ancients knew more than we give them credit for, and that the crack was not the reason for failure but for silence. Because the unfinished obelisk may have been the beginning of something greater, a lost project, a forgotten purpose, one we may never understand. These are not just ruins, they are questions made of stone. And each one echoes a truth the modern world has yet to face, that we are not the peak of civilization. We are a page in a longer story, and perhaps a story that began long before we arrived. Because the stones do not lie. They weigh what they weigh. They stand where they stand. And they speak not in words but in awe. In the next part of our journey, we turn from stone to symbol, from structure to the strange objects and texts that refuse to be decoded. Artifacts found in places they shouldn't be. Books written in no known language. Maps that show the world as it was before it was discovered. Get ready, because what comes next isn't carved in rock. It's etched in mystery. Not all mysteries are carved in stone. Some are written, etched in ink, cast in bronze, drawn on parchment. And these are perhaps the most dangerous of all, because they speak. They whisper to us across time. And what they say breaks everything we thought we knew about our past. These are not relics. They are anomalies, objects that shouldn't exist, yet do. And they tell stories that history would rather forget. Codex Gigas, the Devil's Bible. In the hushed vaults of Sweden's National Library sits a book that few dare to open. It weighs 75 kilograms. Its pages are nearly a meter tall. It's bound in leather. And according to legend, it was written in a single night. By a monk and the devil. This is the Codex Gigas, the giant book, also known as the Devil's Bible. Its origin is traced to the 13th century to a monastery in Bohemia. A monk condemned to be walled up alive for breaking his vows pleaded for mercy. He promised to create a book that would contain all human knowledge, scripture, medicine, astronomy, history, in a single volume. The abbot agreed. He had one night. Realizing the task was impossible, the monk made a desperate pact. He called upon the devil. By morning, the Codex Gigas was finished, and in the center of the book, an enormous, chilling portrait of Satan himself, clawed crowned with glowing eyes, Unlike anything found in any Bible on earth. That's the legend. The truth is stranger. Modern scholars confirm the entire 620-page manuscript was written by one hand. The handwriting is consistent. The ink, the spacing, the flourishes, identical throughout. This would have taken decades, and yet there are no corrections, no signs of fatigue, no breaks in flow. Inside the book are the complete Latin Bible, medical texts, historical records, astrological charts, exorcism spells, a calendar of saints, and the mysterious portrait. Why include a demon in a sacred manuscript? What was the monk trying to show? And why did he work in silence? Some believe he was cursed, others possessed. Some say the book is not just a manuscript, but a mirror reflecting the duality of faith and fear. The Codex Gigas has passed through wars, empires, and hands cursed by fate. It was taken as a war prize during the 30 Years' War. It has survived fires, theft, and political upheaval. Some say wherever it goes, disaster follows. A curse carried in calfskin. Today it sits behind glass, unread, unexplained, and waiting. The Rohank Codex, a language no one can read. In a quiet Hungarian library lies a book that refuses to be known. It has no title, no known author, and no deciphered text. It is called the Rohank Codex, named after the town where it was discovered in the early 1800s. 400 pages, thousands of unique characters, over 80 full-page illustrations. But not a single symbol has ever been conclusively decoded. The script doesn't match any known language, ancient or modern. Its structure is not Latin, Greek, Arabic, Hebrew, or even cuneiform. Linguists, cryptographers, historians, none have broken its code. The illustrations are even stranger. Scenes of battle, rituals, figures with halos, crosses, stars, crescents, Christian, Islamic, pagan, all mixed together. What kind of civilization used such a script? What belief system combined such opposite symbols? Some suggest the book belonged to a secret religious sect. Others say it's a prayer book meant to protect sacred knowledge from outsiders. Then there are skeptics who believe it's a hoax, an elaborate riddle created to test future minds. But if so, why such depth? Why so many pages? Why such strange consistency? Attempts have been made using artificial intelligence, pattern analysis, frequency mapping, still nothing. Some symbols appear more frequently, some follow regular spacing, but no Rosetta Stone has emerged, and perhaps that's the point. Some knowledge is meant to be hidden, not because it is dangerous, but because it forces us to admit our limits. The Rohank Codex is not just a mystery, it is a reminder that language is power, and that the greatest knowledge is often the one we cannot name. The Roman dodecahedrons, the objects no one mentions. 12 faces, 12 pentagons, 12 perfectly cast holes, and not a single clue. Since 1739, over 130 Roman dodecahedrons have been found across Europe, England, France, Germany, Hungary, Switzerland. All made of bronze, all hollow, all mysterious. They range in size from golf ball to grapefruit. Each face has a hole in the center. The holes vary in size, and at each vertex, a small knob protrudes. They are beautifully made, clearly valuable. And yet, no Roman document ever mentions them. What were they? No one knows. Were they candlestick holders, dice for ritual games, surveying tools, thread gauges, astronomical instruments, military signaling devices, fortune-telling artifacts? Every theory collapses under scrutiny. They are too delicate for warfare, too complex for children, too inconsistent for measurement. Some were found with coins, suggesting they held value. One was discovered in a woman's grave, another near a horse statue, but context reveals nothing. Even more unsettling, they've never been found in Rome itself, only in the fringes of the empire, in places where Roman culture mixed with Celtic and Germanic tribes. Were they banned objects, mystical tools, items for forbidden rituals? And why did no scribe, no chronicler, no artisan ever write about them? It's as if their use was secret, passed from hand to hand, whispered from mouth to mouth, until the empire fell, and the knowledge vanished. Today, the dodecahedrons sit in museum cases. No label explains them, no theory satisfies. They are bronze ghosts, silently mocking our need to understand. Because not all objects want to be explained, some just want to be remembered. The Piri Rise map, the world before the world was known. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Rise drew a map. He claimed it was based on ancient charts, some from Greece, some from Rome, some allegedly from Columbus. Only 1/3 of the map survives today. But what's on that fragment defies logic. It shows the coastlines of Western Africa, Eastern South America, and most astonishingly, the northern coast of Antarctica. Except Antarctica wasn't discovered until 1820, and this version shows it without ice, as it would have looked thousands of years ago. How? How could a 16th century admiral draw a continent beneath the ice? Modern radar scans show the landmass beneath Antarctica's ice sheet, matching the contours on the Piri Rise map. Could he have guessed? Or did he truly have access to charts far older than we thought possible? Some researchers believe the original maps used by Piri Rise were copied from a civilization that existed before the last ice age, perhaps even before recorded history. Atlantis, a forgotten seafaring empire, or simply a fluke. But here's what makes the Piri Rise map terrifying. The accuracy is beyond medieval standards. The projections imply aerial knowledge, and the sources have all vanished. No one knows where the charts came from. No one knows how they were made, and no one has been able to recreate the methodology. Some believe it proves that an advanced civilization existed long before us, capable of global navigation, cartography, and data preservation. Others think it was alien contact, or ancient astronauts, or lost gods. Maybe the truth is simpler. Maybe the map is a relic not just of geography but of memory, a memory we've chosen to forget. These artifacts are not just strange. They are out of place, out of time, and perhaps out of our reach. They mock our timelines. They challenge our assumptions. They remind us that knowledge is not linear, that what is lost is not always primitive, and what is found is not always ready to be understood. Because the truth is this: if even one of these objects is real, fully, unquestionably real, then our entire view of history is wrong. In the next part of our journey, we shift from objects to people. Civilizations that appeared suddenly, flourished with brilliance, then vanished, leaving behind only questions. What happened to them? And could the same thing happen to us? Not all disappearances are sudden. Some happen slowly, quietly, like a candle flickering before it goes out. Others are instant, as if a switch was flipped, and an entire world blinked out of existence. But the result is the same. A vanished people, a lost story, and a silence that echoes louder than anything they left behind. In this part of our journey, we explore the civilizations that once thrived, and then vanished, without explanation, without farewell, without a trace. The Clovis people, the culture that vanished overnight. It began with a discovery in New Mexico in 1932. Stone points, sleek, sharp, elegant, found buried alongside the bones of mammoths and giant bison. Tools so advanced, so well-made, they changed everything we thought we knew about early humans in North America. These were the Clovis points, and the people who made them became known as the Clovis culture. They lived around 13,000 years ago. They hunted megafauna. They spread across the continent, and their technology was unmatched for its time. Flint knappers today still marvel at their craftsmanship. But then they disappeared, completely. Within a few hundred years, all trace of them vanished from the archaeological record. Why? Some say climate change. At the end of the Ice Age, temperatures rose rapidly, lakes dried, forests shifted. The large animals they depended on went extinct. Others believe it was a cosmic event, a meteor impact. At sites across North America, scientists have found evidence of microscopic glass spherules, high levels of iridium, layers of burned earth, signs of massive wildfires. Still others suggest they didn't vanish. They blended, merged with other groups, changed names, languages, traditions. But here's the mystery. Why did their tools vanish too? Why did such effective technology simply stop? No transition, no evolution, just silence. The Clovis people leave behind no cities, no temples, no writings, only stone and questions. Doggerland, Europe's lost Atlantis. 10,000 years ago, if you stood on the white cliffs of Dover and looked east, you would not see water. You would see a vast land, lush meadows, winding rivers, dense forests filled with mammoths, reindeer, and red deer. This was Doggerland, a massive land bridge connecting Britain to continental Europe, a paradise for Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, and a place that has now vanished beneath the sea. As the last ice age ended, sea levels rose, slowly at first, then suddenly. Around 8,200 years ago, a massive underwater landslide off Norway, the Storegga Slide, triggered a tsunami. Doggerland was drowned. The rivers became seabeds, the forests became reefs. The villages, if there were any, were lost. Today, what remains lies beneath the North Sea. Fishermen have hauled up fossilized antlers, mammoth bones, flint tools, even a preserved forest floor, but no settlements, no human remains, no maps. It is a lost world without walls. Could this have been the real Atlantis? Some think so. It fits the myth. A thriving land swallowed by water. A memory turned legend. Others see it as a warning. a reminder of how fragile human life is against the forces of nature, how fast paradise can become ocean. In a world facing rising seas again, the story of Doggerland might be more than history. It might be prophecy. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, the legacy of a vanished people. In the 1930s, workers clearing jungle for banana plantations in southern Costa Rica stumbled upon something strange. Spheres, perfectly round, made of stone, some the size of marbles, others larger than a man, weighing up to 16 tons. They were everywhere, in lines, in triangles, in clusters, but no one knew who made them, and no one knows why. They are called Las Boluses, made of granodiorite, a rock so hard it resists weathering for millennia. To this day, over 300 spheres have been found, carved without metal tools, transported without wheels, placed with precision. Yet there is no written record, no inscriptions, no artwork, no burials, no ruins. The people who made them are gone. Archaeologists attribute the spheres to the Dikwi's culture, a civilization that flourished between 700 and 1500 AD. But the Dikwis left no writings, only pottery, gold jewelry, and these strange orbs. Some theories say the spheres marked property lines. Others believe they were used in ceremonies, or aligned with stars, or represented power. But none of these theories explain why such effort for roundness. Why so many sizes? Why scatter them across hundreds of kilometers? And why, when the Spanish arrived, was there no trace of the people who made them? It's as if the creators of the spheres vanished, leaving behind only symbols no one can read. Today, the spheres are scattered across gardens, museums, parks. Some were destroyed by treasure hunters looking for gold inside. And the culture that made them, gone, no names, no gods, no stories, just stone and silence. The giant of Castelnau, a being that shouldn't exist. In 1890, a French anthropologist named Georges Vacher de Lapau was excavating a Bronze Age burial mound near Castelnau-le-Lez. What he found shocked him. Fragments of bone, massive in size, a femur, a tibia, a humerus, all far too large to belong to any normal human. According to his calculations, the individual would have stood over 11 feet tall and weighed several hundred kilograms. Lapouge believed they were human, not deformed, not pathological, but the remains of a giant. The bones were sent to the University of Montpellier. Experts examined them. Many agreed. They were unusually large. Some suggested gigantism, others skeletal anomalies, but no conclusive diagnosis was made. Then the bones disappeared. No museum holds them. No lab retains a sample. They simply vanished. And with them, so did the debate. Since then, other large bones have been reported around France and Europe, but they too seem to vanish, dismissed as misidentifications, or hoaxes, or myths. But if the Castelnau giant was real, what does it mean? Were there once giants walking the earth? Is there a missing branch of humanity we refuse to acknowledge? Or is the story part of a deeper pattern? One where anything that breaks the timeline is buried again. Every culture has tales of giants. The Nephilim of the Bible, the Titans of Greece, the Rakshasas of India, the Jotnar of Norse myth. Are these just metaphors or memories? If giants did exist, why were they erased? Did they threaten a version of history we wanted to protect? Or were they simply too strange to survive? The silence beneath the earth. Across continents and millennia, we find the same echo of peoples who rose, created, then vanished, sometimes by flood, sometimes by fire, sometimes by forgetting, and sometimes by design. Because perhaps the greatest secret is not what was lost, but why it was never found again. Civilizations are fragile. They don't end with a bang. They fade in the absence of writing, in the loss of memory, in the silence that grows when the last witness dies. And then, all that remains is mystery. In the final part of our journey, we return to the texts, to scrolls buried for 2,000 years, to labyrinths sealed by fear, to names of God lost in ancient alphabets. Because some truths are not just buried in time, they are encoded, waiting to be read. Not all knowledge is lost in ruins. Some are hidden in libraries, in jars, in buried temples, and in books that should not exist. This is the story of sacred scrolls, of forbidden names, of manuscripts that whisper things we are not ready to hear. They are not legends, they are real, they are written, and they are waiting. In 1947, a young Bedouin shepherd threw a stone into a cave near the Dead Sea. He heard the sound of pottery breaking. Inside, he found clay jars. Inside the jars, ancient scrolls, perfectly preserved. Soon, archaeologists uncovered over 900 documents, fragments of more than 800 separate works, some written on parchment, others on papyrus, most over 2,000 years old. Among them were the oldest known copies of the Hebrew Bible, books once thought lost, prayers, rules, prophecies, descriptions of apocalyptic battles, and strange texts never seen before. Who wrote them? Many believe it was a group called the Essenes, a Jewish sect that lived in isolation, waiting for the end of the world. Others think the scrolls were smuggled out of Jerusalem to protect sacred knowledge from Roman destruction. Some scrolls speak of angels, of visions, of cosmic secrets. One even lists 64 locations where gold and silver are buried, but no one has found them. Yet, the scrolls raise many questions. Why were they hidden? Who were they meant for? And why do some of their teachings differ from later religious texts? To this day, not all scrolls have been translated. Some are too damaged, some are too complex, and some are simply too strange. It was the greatest library of the ancient world, built in Egypt over 2,000 years ago. Its halls were filled with scrolls from every corner of the known earth. Philosophy, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, histories, poetry, blueprints for machines, and texts from civilizations long forgotten. At its height, the Library of Alexandria may have held over 700,000 scrolls, but it is gone, burned, lost, erased from stone. Who destroyed it? Some blame Julius Caesar, others blame religious zealots. Some say it died not in flames, but slowly, through neglect, through fear, through silence. We will never know what was lost, ideas that could have changed the world. Technologies centuries ahead of their time, truths about our origin, our past, our potential. Some believe copies of its scrolls survived, hidden, scattered, waiting to be found. Maybe in private collections, maybe in sealed vaults, maybe somewhere no one would think to look. In the desert sands of Egypt, near a place called Hawara, lies something strange. An underground structure so vast, ancient writers said it surpassed the pyramids. A labyrinth, with thousands of rooms. The historian Herodotus claimed to have seen it himself. He said it held the tombs of kings, of sacred crocodiles, of lost knowledge. In 2008, ground-penetrating radar revealed massive stone chambers beneath the sand. But the site was quickly closed. No further excavation allowed. Why? Authorities said it was for protection. Others whispered of national secrets, or things that would change our view of history forever. If the labyrinth is real, what does it hide? Scrolls, maps, prophecies, or something older, something not meant to be uncovered? In ancient Hebrew texts, God's name was written with 4 letters: Yod, Het, Vav, Het. The name was never spoken aloud. It was sacred, mysterious, powerful. Some believe the letters held the key to creation itself. Not just a name, but a formula, a vibration, a design woven into the fabric of reality. In mystical traditions, each letter has a number, each number a meaning. Some rabbis spent their lives decoding them, looking for hidden messages, prophecies, warnings. In modern times, some scientists and linguists have begun to ask, could the structure of ancient alphabets carry deeper information? Not just sound, but truth. Could the name of God be a code? And if so, what happens when we finally read it? We live in an age of information. And yet the greatest secrets may not be in databases. They may be in ancient stone, in old scrolls, in letters no one speaks anymore. Some were hidden to protect them, some were buried to silence them, and some were encoded to wait for the one who could understand. The scrolls of the desert, the labyrinths beneath the sand, the libraries that burned, the names we dare not pronounce, they are all still here, around us, beneath us, within us. What if they are not lost? What if they are waiting? Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next video.